Hell in a Cell has come and gone, and much like the competitors inside of it, we will never be the same again. Probably. Maybe. I don't know. But you know what is the same? Me bringing you this Monday Night Raw review. Hey guys, it's Marcus Stewart, and welcome to Call It in the Ring, a wrestling recap and discussion show. We are talking about last night's Monday Night Raw, taking place in Dallas, Texas on September 17th, 2018. Thanks for listening, and as always, you can download and subscribe to the show on YouTube, iTunes, as well as Podbean. Just search for Marcus Writes About Games, and you can get all of this lovely wrestling content instantly added to your inbox or whatever the hell it is that you get your podcast in. It'll get there immediately, on time. You never have to wait. It's a good deal. It's a good deal. And it helps me out too, which I always appreciate. Anyways, we open the show with Roman Reigns coming out to the ring, and he's not very happy. He says that, last night didn't go the way he wanted, but he still woke up this morning, still the Universal Champion, which really isn't something to brag about, considering how Hell in a Cell ended. And to remind him of that is one Braun Strowman, a very ticked off Braun Strowman, and, understandably so, who makes his way to the ring and says that, or not to the ring, oh yeah, I guess he does get in the ring. But, he says that the only reason Roman's champ is because of Brock, and that makes 2 times that Brock has screwed him out of a title. So before he goes after Roman, because Roman wants to fight Brock, but Braun's like, I'm going to kill Brock first, and then I'm going to come after you and take your title. This brings out Baron Corbin, is like, slow down, guys. I understand everybody wants to kill everybody, but I've got a solution that should make everyone happy. So, on the, what is the next Saudi Arabia show, which, WWE's doing another show on Saudi Arabia, if you are not aware, this year, November 2nd, I believe was the date that Corbin said. These 3 will face each other, and by these 3, Roman, Braun, and Brock will face off in a triple threat match for the Universal Championship at Crown Jewel. That's the name of the show, Crown Jewel, which, I guess it's an okay name, I guess. Could be better. I'm not super feeling it, but it's not, I guess it's not awful. So yeah, we have to wait all the way till November to see this match, I guess. Braun kind of goes off at this announcement, saying that he thinks that that announcement sucks, and that he thinks that Corbin sucks, and he turns to Roman and says he knows that he sucks, and you know what? Everyone in this arena sucks. So everything sucks in the world of Braun Strowman. This brings out Paul Heyman, who also has some people bring out the cell door, the Hell in a Cell door that Brock kicked off of its hinges like Leonidas in 300, to just remind us of Brock being a freak, and teaches us Brockonomics, in that the more powerful and successful you are in WWE, the hotter commodity you are in UFC, and vice versa. So Brock will, he accuses Braun and Roman of conspiring to take the title from him at SummerSlam, but ultimately Brock will be the conqueror at Crown Jewel when he takes the Universal Championship back. Braun is not hearing any of this, and he starts charging up the ramp after Heyman, sending Heyman to kind of run or waddle very quickly to escape. This leaves Corbin and Roman in the ring alone, and Corbin says, hey, I got an idea. Since you're all about defending the title all the time, and since we didn't get a winner last night, how about you defend the Universal Championship tonight against me? Which, it's about time he booked himself into a world title match, because I was wondering when he was going to do that, given that he has general manager powers, and Corbin is also a giant D-bag of a man. So he's finally cashing in, which makes sense because he's, Roman is not 100%. So he sees this as his golden opportunity to take the title from him. So, long opening segment here. Braun was great in it, as he usually is when you just kind of let him go out there and just scream and be angry. Next up, we get our first match of the night, Dean Ambrose versus Drew McIntyre, which, if you listen to my Hell in a Cell review, and if you haven't, you should do that right now. You should finish listening to this, and then you should go back and listen to the Hell in a Cell review, because it's really good, if I do say so myself. I said that I really want to see a full-on Ambrose versus McIntyre, like, blood feud, so I was pleasantly surprised to see that these two were facing each other. Renee Young had a bit of a slip up when Drew was making his entrance, where she called Dean John, which is Dean's real actual first name, which was this must be interesting. This is the first time that I can at least call in recent history, or any history, where one of the commentators is married to one of the talent, and one of the top guys at that. So it's an interesting dynamic of her calling her husband's matches, but having to be objective, at least on paper. So just slip-ups like that of calling him his actual name, like, oh crap. Then, she wasn't called out on it, as, you wouldn't expect her to be. But that's probably not an easy thing to do. So I can't totally blame her for that. Dean starts by going after Drew's legs. Like, he picks a body part and spends pretty much the entire match working on his legs with various leg debilitating maneuvers and submissions. Again, really expanding his repertoire. We got, he's hitting like, he's banging his leg against the post. He's hitting like Boston Crabs. He even bust out a Texas Cloverleaf, of all things, to go out, again, to weaken his legs, and which is a smart strategy, given that Drew is a walking redwood from Scotland. And it was interesting to see Drew as the bigger heel kind of having to fight from underneath here, because Dean was kind of all over him for a lot of this. But, Drew kind of fought back with, using his power to fend off Dean. And, like, at one point he did his cool, when Dean had him on the top rope to do some sort of maneuver, he knocked him down, and then he did his sit-up, like, belly-to-belly throw to Dean off of the turnbuckle, which we haven't really seen him do much on the main roster. It's something he did a lot in NXT, so it was nice to see that again. And then, eventually, Drew is outside the ring, and then Dean decides to take a chance and climb on top of the post, the little LED ring post, and do his jumping, I guess, elbow thing. But then Drew sidesteps him, which sends Ambrose crashing into the barricade, and the ref is giving him the 10 count, and Dean barely gets in at 9, but as soon as he stands up, Drew hits that Claymore of his to kick Dean's head off and get the surprise kind of pin. So this was a cool match. I like the story of Dean going after the leg and Drew selling it and kind of hitting a desperate Claymore to kind of eke out a victory, because it makes Drew look strong, but Dean doesn't look bad in defeat, because Dean, you can almost say that Drew kind of got a fluke win on that. So again, I would love to see an actual angle or feud with like some sort of personal issue between these two sometime in the near future. Backstage, Drew McIntyre runs into Dolph Ziggler, who is not dead after taking his fall off the cell last night, along with Seth Rollins. And they talk about how awesome they are. And then Baron Corbin comes out and brags about, like, hey, good job beating Dean Ambrose tonight, and I'm going to beat Roman Reigns tonight to be the Universal Champion. And it would be cool, Dolph, because I heard you still got your rematch for the Intercontinental Championship, which in my mind, I was like, oh, thank God they didn't forget about that. And he's like, hey, you know what you should do? You should challenge Seth tonight. And Dolph is like, no, because I'm super hurt from falling 15 feet through a table outside of the ring. But then Corbin convinces him by saying, hey, yes, you're hurt, but Seth is hurt even worse, and he's not even here right now. So, let's say that if you decide to use your rematch clause, if Seth can't compete, I have the power to strip him of the title and award it to you by forfeit. And then Dolph kind of changes his tune a bit. He wants reassurance that can happen. Corbin says absolutely, and Dolph's like, all right, you're on. I'm gonna get my Intercontinental Championship match tonight. So we gotta. This is 2 championship matches that we have. And it's about to grow because we see Ronda Rousey backstage with the Bella twins and Natalia. And she comes in and she asks them like how an open challenge works, because she wants to issue an open challenge so that she can defend the women's championship to prove that she's a fighting champion. And in a kind of a cute segment, she's like, so how does that work exactly? Which is a great question. If in realistically, like if you remove all of the make-believe of pro wrestling, like that's an honest question of do you like, she asked, like, do I have to run that by Corbin, like the GM first, and then go out there and make the challenge, or do I just go out there and just see what happens? Like she straight up asks this. So it's almost like her kind of speaking for the fans that have always, like, if you really want to pick apart the logic of wrestling, you're like, yeah, do I just go out there? Does it matter if the GM is aware or not? Because I'm kind of like, the show on paper has a format. Like, can I just go out and, I'm not penciled in to have a match, but can I just have a match? And who knows how long it's going to go because I don't have a scheduled opponent. And funny enough, Natty and the Bellas kind of go like, oh yeah, like the guys do that all the time. Like, you don't have to tell Corbin, you just go out there and just do it. And Ron is like, I just do it? And I'm like, yeah, I just go out there and just be like, hey, who wants to fight? I got a belt. So like that, I was amused by that segment, just because of Ronda kind of playing the fan in that that little scenario. So it was pretty cute. So, but yeah, now we have 3 championship matches that we are scheduled to have on this Raw. So it's this Raw is very quickly becoming quite stacked. Next up, we got Chad Gable, accompanied by his new buddy Bobby Roode, taking on Victor, one half of the Ascension. The story of this little team up between Roode and Gable, where they're having success, and Gable is really, really happy to be teaming with Bobby Roode. And his exuberance shows in the entrance and in the ring. He's just all smiles. He's just really over the top with his excitement, which has been entertaining. And this is this singles match was a good reminder of how awesome Gable is, and he's great in tag team stuff, has been proven in the past. But man, I would love to see Gable in that Intercontinental Championship scene in the future. Like, imagine the matches he could have with like Dolph Ziggler or Seth Rollins if he holds on to that belt. He can go. Gable has proven that for a long time, is that he can go, and he went here. He's throwing Victor all around, just various suplexes, and is just going ham, and is also just really happy to have Bobby Roode supporting him. Eventually, he picks up the win, hitting a German suplex for a pinning combination. And then post-match, as Bobby is celebrating, Connor runs in and hits Gable from behind, which sends him to Roode, because Connor is a big old sore loser with paint on his face. And the story doesn't seem to be over. Probably next week we'll see Roode against Connor, if I had to guess. So the commentators alluded to the idea that maybe Gable was the one mooching off of Roode, which I guess that's one way you could go, even though Gable's the one that's been carrying the load for this team. So that would be weird if he's doing all the work. But yeah, like I said before, I have hope that this story evolves into Roode using Gable, like taking advantage of him maliciously to get to the next level before dumping him, and then just all of this being a catalyst for Roode along the way to heel turns. So we'll see. Seth Rollins arrives looking noticeably less than 100%. And one of the interviewer later comes up to him and informs him of what's going down, that, hey, you're going to be defending the Intercontinental Championship tonight, and if you don't, Corbin's going to take the title from you. And Seth is not happy about this, but he reminds Corbin that even though he's the GM, this is still Monday Night Rollins, so he is going to persevere and fight. You know who else is going to fight in the near future is The Undertaker, who makes a rare appearance, as Michael Cole likes to say, on Raw. And one of the things that struck me that I hadn't thought of until now is that if Undertaker is back, like he's been back having matches for some time now since his not retirement at WrestleMania 33, why not go after Roman Reigns and get revenge for that loss? If he's going to be sticking around, why not go after him and try to beat him? Because I mean, he did it to Brock Lesnar when Brock Lesnar broke the streak. He came back and kind of tried to rectify that. And granted, Brock and Heyman were running their mouths for about a year and a half or however long it was before Taker actually returned to go get him. But Roman kind of was too. I mean, nowhere near to the extent that Paul was, but he was in the month or so after that. So I just kind of thought about that. Like, you'd think that instead of having these kind of special attraction one-offs, he'd be like, I want another crack at the young guy that got one over on me. Especially now that he's also a world champion. So yeah, just putting it out there and wonder if anyone else has considered that. But anyway, he's here to talk about Triple H though, and not Roman Reigns. And he says that he's never seen a more broken soul than Triple H because of what Triple H said about him last week, saying that he's lost the little bit of respect that he's had for The Undertaker left. He said that Trips used to be a great warrior, a sadistic warrior, but now his battlefield is the boardroom, and he plays a corporate game. And he knows that Shawn Michaels is going to be at the Super Show and that he's going to be in Triple H's corner because he's not flying halfway around the world to just sit in the audience. So Taker, pretty much this is a long Taker promo, but what it boils down to is the big announcement that to counteract Shawn, Kane is going to be in Undertaker's corner to back him up. So we got the return of the Brothers of Destruction taking on DX, or at least so to speak, not really because that was just a tag match, but it's going to be the Brothers of Destruction and DX in one ring for the first time in forever. And yeah, Kane did not show up tonight, but sure, I mean, I guess that adds a bit more interest to the match. I still am not super enthused to see it, but this helps, doesn't hurt. Yeah, I just, like I've said this the last several weeks, I just kind of want the Super Showdown to be kind of over and done with so we can stop talking about this match because it feels like this weird part of the show that doesn't exist because it's on its own little planet in terms of its storyline. Yeah, so anyways, we get one of the little cool presentations for the Connor's Cure, the patients, the illness patients that get to make their own wrestling characters, and they came out on the stage with Bayley and Sasha to kind of show off their personas, which led to our next match, which was Bayley taking on Dana Brooke. And Dana is alone. There's no Titus Worldwide, and we get official confirmation that Dana is done with Titus Worldwide. She has struck out on her own. And this is the first time in some time that she's been completely on her own. Like, even when she came in onto the main roster, she came on as Charlotte's lackey, and then went to I almost called it Charlotte's Worldwide. She does not have her own, what is it, a business, I guess? Whatever you want to call what Titus Worldwide is. But yeah, so we'll see how Dana holds up on her own on a very competitive women's roster. But this match was nothing special, but not bad, just totally acceptable kind of back and forth match. Dana got the show off her athleticism here, but it was not to be because Dana fell victim to the Bayley to belly, giving Bayley the big win. Her and Sasha celebrate. So I think this Sasha and Bayley thing is done, it seems. I mean, are they gonna fight? I don't even care at this point. It's kind of fizzled out in terms of interest. Like, they had lightning in the bottle with that sort of kind of Bayley heel turn when she snapped and beat the crap out of Sasha, and everyone loved it. And they didn't really take advantage of it. They just made them a team, and then even the team doesn't have like a storyline going on. They just have random matches. and you don't really hear about them having issues that much anymore. And it seems like they've kind of dropped it, which is a huge disappointment given how many months they made us sit through this on again, off again crap with Sasha and Bayley. So, I mean, they'll have to break up eventually as a team, but my God, this has been literally a year or so of these two in some shape or form having a thing going on, and I'm over it at this point. I'm so over it. It's going to take a lot to really make me want to see these two fight or do anything together. So it's too bad given what those two are capable of doing together in the ring. Anyway, so we go to the back. We see the Authors of Pain. They're making their way to the ring, which I normally isn't a big deal, but Rizar straight up jacks this dude that's just like one of the production dudes and just like lifts him up on the wall, and Drake Maverick has to talk him down, and the guy's looking terrified. And it was just a great moment because it was not expected. Like, I was kind of like half paying attention, and then that happens. I was like, oh God, like Razor is about to eat someone. And even Corey Graves was like, the hell was that? We get a WWE 2K19 promo, which was interesting that they didn't do the live action, the cool live action commercial that they've done for the last few years. It was all in-game stuff where we kind of got to see, I guess, glimpses of what maybe a story mode would be and all that stuff. Still look cool, but if it's anything like the other 2K games, the advertisements will be much better than the actual game itself. But I'm kind of disappointed because I like those live action commercials that they done, whether it was last year with the Rollins burning down the archives, or the Suplex City thing that they did the year before that. They've done some really cool stuff in the past. So, talking about a video game, but hey, I do a lot of kind of a video game person, so I guess it's expected and totally fine. What's not totally fine is Barrett Brown. Barrett Brown, I think that was his name, and Gregory Jones, two local competitors. We call them jobbers in the biz, taking on the Authors of Pain. And they were the opposite of totally fine because they just got eaten alive. The production guy that Rosario jacked up on the way to the ring probably would have stood a better chance than these two did. Just a lot of massacring, and then the Super Collider for the 1, 2, 3. The Authors of Pain are still awesome. More like the awesome of pain. That barely makes sense. But, or just, I don't know. It's better than just calling them the AOP. But the AOP pick up the win. Wonder when they're gonna get those, getting that tag title picture. Probably after, it'd be cool if Ambrose and Seth win those belts eventually, and then they have to fight the AOP. That could be a really good match. Yeah, let's see. Baron Corbin, Dolph Ziggler, and are backstage, and Dolph is kind of like, dude, you told me Seth wasn't gonna be here, and now he is, and now I'm kind of in danger of wasting my rematch clause because I'm not, and I'm nowhere near 100% tonight to fight. And Corbin's reassuring him like, hey, Seth's banged up too, you got this. And then Seth shows up and they have a stare down. Corbin gives Rollins the opportunity to back out of the match because he knows he's hurt, but Seth isn't going to back down because that's just not what he does, man. That's not what Seth Rollins is all about. He's about going out there with Dolph Ziggler, which is the next match, and having a really good match. And I like this match because these two have fought quite a few times in recent months, but this felt fresh because both guys were super duper injured. And so the match was just two guys that couldn't go quite to that gear that they usually are. And they're both selling their injuries. And I like that story of two guys that are half dead trying to outlast the other one. Like, you saw them kind of being like the psychology that they were showing where like they couldn't hit a lot of their normal offense or not as effectively. They were both a step below their normal kind of speed. Seth hit the blockbuster at one point but couldn't cover because the impact hurt his back and his ribs, so he was just kind of laying there. Like, little stuff like that I always appreciate in matches and wrestling. So I like it made this matchup feel more fresh because it was just a different dynamic going on. The match was a good back and forth match, as is expected from these two at this point. And then Seth picks up the win by hitting the curb stomp on Dolph, and so that ends Dolph's hunt for the IC title, at least in this immediate future. Good match. I'm looking forward to seeing Seth move on to a new challenger at this point. Maybe, I mean, McIntyre would still kind of be in the same wheelhouse, but also wouldn't mind seeing McIntyre with a singles title because I really like Drew McIntyre, if that wasn't clear. But yeah, cool match here. Glad to see Seth retain that belt, and hopefully this is kind of or at least it signals the end of this feud, because it clearly isn't, because the Shield will be battling Strowman and Ziggler and McIntyre at the Australia show. So, but for now, this is kind of the end of the IC title portion of this saga, seemingly. Keep that in mind. Ronda Rousey comes out and she cuts a quick promo saying that she's actually going to congratulate Alexa because Alexa pushed her to limits she did not expect to be pushed to, and that she held her own better than she expected, but ultimately, of course, she fell victim to Ronda Rousey's awesomeness. And she's all smiles, saying that she wants to be known as a champion of the caliber of Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin and Ric Flair. And then she switches to angry Ronda, saying that if any woman back there thinks that they can handle her, to come out here and try to take the title from her. And we're waiting to see who it's going to be. And Natalia's music hits, which I was like, okay. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, first of all, why wouldn't you? And, you know her. So I was like, okay, this could be a good match. But alas, the music plays and there's no Natty. And Ronda's like, what's going on? And then the Riot Squad appear, and all three of them drag an unconscious Natty to the ring. Obviously, they jumped her, and Ruby is like, hey, I don't dislike you, but I don't like you either, and I'm going to beat you for that belt. And then before the bell rings, the Riot Squad triple team Ronda. She tries her best to fight back, but the numbers game is too much for her, especially since she still has injured ribs from her title defense the night before. As the Riots are really kind of laying into her, the Bella Twins come out to even up the numbers, and this allows Ronda to kind of make her comeback. She hits that snap spinning Samoan drop on the Riot Squad, and the good guys stand tall. And this was pretty much just building up the 6-man or the 6-woman tag between these two groups, which again will be in Australia. So there it is. And like I believe I said several weeks ago, that Ruby Riott is low-key a good challenger for Ronda for that belt, because she can, her having a gang can kind of neutralize Ronda's just godliness. So we saw a good glimpse of that. I was like, okay, that's a good pairing, because both Ronda and Ruby are kind of intense, and that's an interesting story of Ronda. Because even though you could say you sort of saw the same thing with Alexa and her group, but the Riot Squad is a legit faction, and they're not just kind of like loose lackeys. So it feels different, even though it might seem similar on paper to the Alexa and Mickey and Alicia thing from before. So yeah, I hope that Ruby after Australia becomes gets an actual angle and maybe gets a title match, because I would like to see those two in a real feud. So cool to see. Braun Strowman confronts Baron Corbin, and he says that he hopes that Corbin wins tonight because he knows he can, quote, kill him. Like, he straight up says he can kill him, which is interesting, because I never expect WWE's lexicon doesn't generally contain the word kill. So for Braun to straight up say that was surprising and very amusing, and I take him seriously. So I thought that was a great little moment with him. Braun Strowman is awesome. What else can you say? That guy is easily one of the best things going right now on the roster. Speaking of best things going on the roster, we got Elias, who comes out for his weekly concert. And my God, he plays a little ditty in the beginning. And one of the things with Elias that I've thought about for some time now, and I think I'm going to mention it now, is that there are times when he plays the guitar too good to boo. You know, like it's too entertaining that because he can legit play guitar. He's not like perfect at it, but he plays pretty good. Like he played his little ditty in the beginning, and I was like, oh, that's actually really entertaining. Like everyone's clapping along, and they do that for several of his concerts. But I almost wish he would kind of dirty it up and play crappier on purpose to kind of reinforce his kind of would wannabe big time star, where like he's not as good as he thinks he is, but he actually is pretty good. So that kind of gets in the way sometimes. So I kind of would like him to kind of, at least me personally, kind of scale back, maybe intentionally miss a chord or mistune his guitar or something to play up the crappy musician that thinks he's the best thing since sliced bread or whatever little metaphor you want to use for that thing. But he comes out, he says that he knows how awful Raw can be until he shows up, which almost feels like a shoot. And he rips on Dallas for being Cowboys fans, saying, oh, I see a lot of Cowboys merchandise in the ring or in the arena. It's crazy that you guys like to advertise failure as much as you guys do, which I thought was funny. And then he's interrupted by Lio Rush, who last week we saw training with Lashley and kind of being introduced as Lashley's new manager. Of course, if you're not familiar with Lio Rush, he is a 205 Live cruiserweight competitor and formerly of NXT, though he was not in NXT for very long and he didn't even show up there that much. Hell of an athlete, very, very flippy, can do a lot of really cool flips. But he comes out and he cuts this very energetic and very confident promo, kind of introducing himself, and almost immediately Elias gets in a great line saying, whose kid is this on the stage? Like, who lost their kid? And because Leo is a very small dude, like he's 23 years old, he's tiny and skinny, so he actually does look like, especially compared to someone like Elias, who's pretty jacked dude. He looks like a child. So Elias, and kind of that dry kind of humor that only he can do, just immediately kind of cuts off Leo, which is pretty hilarious. But then Leo doesn't lose it. Leo is this is the longest I've heard Leo talk. And again, I don't watch 205 Live but when he was in NXT, he didn't get any promo time. He just kind of had random matches every now and again. So I don't know if on 205 Live he's been doing this character. But he is better on the mic than I expected out of him. He cuts a promo saying that he's pretty much throwing his support behind Lashley and hyping up Lashley as the best thing ever. And he has a voice. He has a distinctive voice. It almost borders on annoying somewhat. He's got kind of like, his voice almost sounds like Kofi Kingston's Kramer Kingsman parody announcer. He's like, oh, Bobby Lashley, he's the best thing ever. And yeah, Lio Rush, we're gonna take him to the top. Like something like that. And but he can talk. He's impressive. I give him props. And eventually, he introduces Lashley, because Lashley's going to have a match against Elias. And during, Bobby comes out, and Leo is on commentary, and he confirms that he is Lashley's manager. And then when he's asked how this partnership came to be, he says that it started over a smoothie, which is okay. A lot of great things start over smoothies, relationships, maybe fitness plans, and partnerships with muscular turtle men as well. And he mentions that over the smoothies, they talked about the plan. And this was kind of overlooked by the commentators. They didn't elaborate on what the plan was, but it stuck out to me. I wonder if anyone else picked up on that and what they might make of that. Of like, if that was a throwaway line, or if that is something that WWE is going to elaborate with, like the plan. Like, I want to know more about that. So I thought that was an interesting little thing that Leo dropped. But not long into the match, Kevin Owens interrupts, and during commentary it's funny because Leo was kind of ripping on Kevin, saying he called him straight up a coward, and then Kevin comes out, and then Michael Cole's like, well, yeah, I guess you can tell him to his face now, and then Kevin immediately starts making his way towards Leo. Leo, in a funny moment, kind of gets up and he throws his chair, like he rolls his rolling chair at Kevin, and then Kevin catches it and then tries to throw it at Leo, and Leo dodges it. So then he tries to run to the ring, and Elias cuts him off, but Leo just leapfrogs over Elias and then hits a backflip over Elias from the apron, and the crowd is really like oohing and awing because Leo legitimately looks like Spider-Man doing this because he's very fluent with his flips, and also he's tiny. He's almost like a cocky Miles Morales, honestly, if I had to think about it. And then he gets to get physical, like he hits a running enziguri on Elias or Kevin, and then eventually Bobby picks him up and throws him over throws Leo on top of Elias and Kevin to thwart the villains, and the two celebrate. So I thought this entire thing was a nice introduction for Leo of like establishing that yes, he can talk. He's the manager for Bobby Lashley. And also he can go. Like, he's not just a mouthpiece. He's skilled. And I'm already more entertained by Lashley from this match than I have probably been since he came back. So if these two, I'm interested in seeing these two form like a tag team and not just the typical manager, like Leo just not doing anything and just being his manager. Like I like the idea of these two kind of having a match as together and getting physical and helping each other out. So I'm color me intrigued by this partnership. This could be one of those things where it's like nobody asked for this, but it might be one of the best things that none of us asked or expected. Alicia Fox and Mickie James are flanking Alexa Bliss, who cuts the little selfie promo, who talks about how Fox and Mickie are going to take on Ember Moon tonight and a partner of her choosing, and they just make fun of Ember, saying that she has no friends and that she's not going to be able to find a partner. She does find a partner in her tag match next, and it's the returning Nia Jax, who has been absent for some reason. I don't know if she was injured or just needed a break or whatever. I don't know, but she's back. Ember is also the hometown girl, being from Dallas, Texas, so she gets a nice little pop at her announcement. And this match was mostly Ember doing most of the work and kind of playing the face in peril, getting beaten up by the teams, and we're just waiting for that hot tag for Nia so that she can steamroll everything. Eventually it does come, and Nia just runs over everybody, and it's just being Nia, ragdolling Alicia, throwing around the ring. And then eventually she picks up the win. And yeah, just kind of like a nice welcome back for Nia Jax. Curious to see where she goes from here. She also apparently won some sort of award that I think it was from Fox or something. Not exactly sure what the award was exactly, but it seemed to be charity or goodwill related. But, cool for her. Next, we got our main event of the evening. Roman Reigns taking on Constable Baron Corbin. Or, I'm sorry, I have to say his official title. Oh, actually, I should mention that before the match, Baron talks to the referee of their match, and he kind of suggestively tells him to call it right down the middle, and making a point to mention that, hey, I kind of control your future and, your pay and your family and your well-being. So, but, I just want you to call this match right down the middle. No favoritism. So, the acting general manager, Constable Baron Corbin, taking on Roman Reigns for the Big Red World title. And this match was, Corbin beating on Roman fighting from underneath because he's still selling his the injuries from his attack and his cell match the 24 hours prior. Corbin's holding his own, but it's just a solid back and forth match. Things take a turn for the interesting where late into the match, Corbin is outside the ring and Roman follows him and kind of charges at him, maybe do a spear. And Corbin grabs a chair and just pelts it at Roman's head, which draws a delayed DQ, of course, drawing the question of why Corbin would do that. He argues with the ref for a bit and then remembers that he's the general manager and can do whatever he wants, so he orders that the match be restarted under no disqualification rules. The match restarts, Roman starts fighting back, but then Braun Strowman shows up and makes his way to the ring, and Corbin uses the distraction to take advantage, including hitting a really big deep six for a very close two. Like, I almost thought they had me for like a millisecond thinking that Corbin won the title. That's how close the 2 count was on that deep six. Eventually, Dolph and Drew show up, and of course, this brings out Dean and Seth. So we kind of have a bit of a repeat of last night with the 2 teams fighting all over the place and just chaos ensuing. Dean and Seth hit stereo suicide dives to take down the D&D. And then Roman goes for his big flip dive over the ropes, but then Corbin stops him. But then as he gets into the ring, he runs into a big old spear, giving Roman the 1-2-3 and retaining his Universal Championship. So yeah, the show wraps up. Always cool to see like random world title defenses on free TV. I guess, we're kind of hitting the reset button a little bit. So we got this triple threat Universal title match to build towards in November, the first week of November. And where does Seth and Dean go after the tag titles again? Or will the 6-man tag in Australia be the end of this, or at least the end of the McIntyre and Dolph involvement? So I don't know. There's some things up in the air right now, mainly with Dean Ambrose. I still want to see him in a singles program with his new serious persona. So we're still kind of a ways before we get to that, it seems. But overall, pretty stacked Raw. Some nice surprises with the title stuff. They're building towards 3 shows right now. Still a little scatterbrained with the presentation and booking, but as we get closer to Australia, that should hopefully even out. Not really looking forward to seeing another show in Saudi Arabia, but we'll see how the card looks this time. But man, Greatest Royal Rumble was an exhausting show to watch, so hopefully it is better than that. But thanks for listening, guys. If you want to reach out to me on Twitter, you can find me at MarcusStewart7. That is the number 7. If you want to tweet me your feelings on Monday Night Raw, as well as Hell in a Cell and what you think is going to go on in the future with all things WWE. And until next time, I'll be back tomorrow with my review of SmackDown Live. And I'll see you then, guys. Adios.